Hi everyone! Since last month's Top 5 at Fisheries Supply video was such a smashing success, I thought that I could do another one, and it's going to be a potty party. The reason I wanted to focus on toilets is because I think a lot of people can feel intimidated by choosing a toilet, what kind they might want. They can be very complex. There's electrical, there's plumbing, and I chose 5 vastly different toilets, and I'm going to give you a rundown of the pros and cons and the differences between each one of them. The first toilet is the Dometic Santa Potty. This happens to be model 964, but they all look pretty similar. And the thing about a portable toilet that makes it really appealing is that you're not bound to the pump out station. So if you're working on your boat and you're not sailing or you can't use your engine right now like me, it's great because you can carry, there's a holding tank underneath the toilet, and it separates from the bowl part and the water reservoir part on the top of the toilet. And then you can carry that holding tank to a toilet or a waste disposal facility. The components of this toilet are it's very easy to use. So there are mounting brackets that you mount to the floor of your boat, little stainless steel U-shaped things that go right up in here on either side. So when you want to empty the tank, you undo these tabs, you kind of pop it out of this thing in the back, and you've got your bowl part up here. So you set that aside, and then this is the holding tank, and you hold it vertically with this handle, and they nicely have put the pour spout also on top with the handle so it doesn't come out. And then you take this, you can take it to a bathroom, and then you unscrew this. We're not drunk. And then when you're done pouring the waste out, you put that back on. Make sure you wipe down everything with a nice Lysol wipe, the bottom, everything, because you never know where things are going to get. And then you put the bowl part on top, and you just click it right back in. So the way this toilet works is that there's about a 2-gallon freshwater reservoir in the top. It kind of goes around the bowl in the top part right here. And to fill that reservoir, you take off a cap, and then you get, like a gallon bottle of water, and you pour into it. You can also put a little bit of a freshening chemical into it, like a Blue Bowl, that type of thing. And then you close that up, and then to fill the bowl with the water, you're going to use this bellows type pumping mechanism, like this. And that will put water in the bowl. And then to flush the toilet, you're going to use this flushing handle right here. You just pull it out, and you'll hear everything drop down into the tank. Now, the one last thing, I have this toilet on my boat. The thing I love about this bowl is that, unlike a lot of toilets that have a really narrow seat that can be really uncomfortable when you're sitting on it, this one, because of its square-like shape on the outside, that allows it to have smooth, even curve throughout, and it's very comfortable to sit on. And the material, this plastic, is it's not just a dinky ordinary plastic like some porta potties are. It's a high-density polyethylene, and you can feel it. You're not going to crack. You're not just going to crack it. It kind of flexes and bends to the abuse that you're going to throw at it. Another cool feature, you can either order these toilets with or without a pump out option. And if you do order it with a pump out option, there are fittings that you can install into the tank. This version of this toilet does not have a pump out option, but if it did, it would look exactly like this, except there would be a threaded fitting right here that you could connect to a pump out So you could put the nozzle on there, and there would be pickup tubes going to the bottom of the tank so that you could just go to a pump out and you don't have to go up to a bathroom or deal with any smell or anything like that. So I only use this toilet for number 1. That's why I can handle, you know, dumping it in a toilet and having the smell like that. I think if it were number 2, it might be a little much for me to deal with. I have a compost separation situation on my boat right now. So price-wise, this one is one of the cheapest toilets we have. It's $122.44. And now for number 4, the RARITAN PH2. The RARITAN PH2 is the toilet that I installed on my first boat, a Catalina 27, when I was redoing my entire plumbing system. And the reason I chose it is because it has a double action piston pump that is so heavy duty that it is much more robust than some of the other brands that have been out there. And I really liked that, and I liked that the handle would come out to the front instead of from up top, because it's easier, if ever you so choose, to pump the toilet while you're sitting on it. It's much easier to go like this than it is to kind of go like that when you're sitting down. But the piston pump is, I think that it's very reliable. I didn't have any problems with this toilet, except, you know, needing to replace seals maybe once a year or so, something like that, because I used it a lot. I was liveaboard. And so basically, you turn this flush dry lever to decide if you want to have your waste pumping out, or if you want to have the water coming in through the inlet here and also pumping out. And also this comes in 2 different configurations. So this is called the PH2, but the other one is called the PH Super Flush. And the difference between those toilets is the base. So the base of this one is a nice geometric shape that has 2 halves that you kind of Velcro into place to conceal all of this. The Super Flush base is exactly the same as the standard like Jabsco toilet base. So it's smaller in size, and that means that you can install it into a much smaller area. And they're both available. And that's the only difference. They have the same pumping mechanism and everything else. And with these toilets, I do want to point out that unlike the porta potty, you do need to plumb it into a holding tank on the boat. So you do need to have room to install a holding tank. And that does mean that with these toilets, you have to pump out. So you have to either have access to a pump out to move your boat to a pump out, or you need to have someone, mobile pump out service, come to your boat ever so often to pump out your holding tank. Another good thing about this toilet is that there is an air vent in the line, so that when you pump, it reduces the back pressure and clogs go through a lot more easily. A big selling point on this toilet for me was the fact that it had a slow close seat. So you can see what that is here, slow close. And it's really important to have those on a boat, especially if you're sailing in rough conditions and you need to use the toilet. Because if you have something like that, it can shatter, it can easily crack the seat, or it can offset the hinges so everything gets all crooked, and then it'll just break really easily. So it can save you a lot of headache to just have a slow close seat. Also, like many toilets in its class, it has you can totally reverse this so that the base, this pump and the base is turned around and over here. So the price of the PH is $551. The Super Flush version of this toilet, the kind with the more compact base that's modeled after the Jabsco and some of the other toilets, is about $100 less. So it is quite a bit more than some of the other more basic toilets, but you do get a lot of strength and robustness and reliability from that. And I think that as far as the manual toilets go, this one is at the top of the line. And now for number 3. Number 3 is the Tecma Nano toilet, which is pretty much the smallest toilet on the market that can give you a reasonable amount of comfort and power. It measures at 11.6 inches tall, which is even shorter than many of our porta potties. The thing that also differentiates all of the Thetford toilets from some of our other electric models is the size of the macerator. At 12 volts, this baby has a 30 amp macerator, which is almost twice as big as other models. We have several other brands that have a 16 amp at 12 volt macerator. So that's huge. It also utilizes a turbine technology, so the blades of the macerator are shaped so that they kind of stick around the outside, and that allows it to be much more robust in its ability to handle waste. For example, if you accidentally threw a tampon in the toilet, we get feedback that with Tecma, it's usually okay. You can usually, clear that out, clean that out, and it doesn't do any major damage to the macerator. But with something with a 16 amp macerator, it's a lot more risky and you might have to get it replaced. So the bowl, I think it's a pretty nicely shaped bowl. The toilet seat is of a lighter material than some other toilets. But it feels really nice. And the seat kind of closes over it instead of just sit right on top of it. And I like that. You have a couple screw holes at the base right here for mounting. And one thing that I like about all the Tecma toilets is that it's totally smooth at the base. Which is really good for cleaning. You don't have to go into all these little nuts and bolts and stuff. So that makes it a lot easier. In the back of the toilet, we have a water trap. So the waste comes out of the macerator here and it goes up through this water trap and down here. So that when the hose is depressurized, the water behind this point, this high point here, will fall back down into the macerator and it will create a blockage between the toilet bowl and the air and the rest of the line that's going to a holding tank. And that's really important because of the smell. If you imagine that there's a clear air run from the holding tank all the way out to the toilet bowl when the toilet's not in use, that can create some funky smells coming out of the toilet. And so there's always going to be water in between. The Tecma Nanos, they come with either a freshwater flush or a raw water flush option. The freshwater flush, you can connect it into your freshwater line that you use for your drinking water and other purposes, and that will be activated with a solenoid valve in the back of the toilet. Whenever the solenoid detects a change in pressure in the line, it opens the freshwater line and allows you to flush the toilet. There are also a couple different control panels. There's an eco control panel, then there's a more premium control panel where you can program the exact amount of water you want to have come back into the bowl and things like that. So because the Nano is an electric toilet that is able to fit all of this stuff into such a small package with a powerful macerator, it does come at a higher price. It is $752.90. And now I would like to show you my number 2 toilet, which is also a member of the Tecma family. It is the Tecma Silence Plus 2G. Toilet number 2, the Tecma Silence Plus 2G, is for quite a bigger boat than the Nano. It has the largest footprint of the 3 Tecmas we carry, measuring 18 inches tall, 18 inches from the back to the front of the base, and a whopping 20 inches from the back of the toilet to the front of the bowl. But the reason it's so large is for comfort. I mean, this is such a luxury seat right here. It's like being it's a real toilet. It's like being in a real house. And it does come with a slow close lid as well, so that's nice. But the thing that really distinguishes it is the fact that it has the most powerful macerator of any toilet we carry, coming in at 40 amps at 12 volts. So this thing can handle anything, not anything, but it can definitely handle the stuff that would totally clog up and destroy the other toilets that we have for sale. It also has a lot of features in common with the Nano. For example, they both have water traps, they both have a choice between an eco and a premium panel, and they also both have a choice between the fresh water and the raw water flush. But the thing that distinguishes the Silence Plus is that it also has an integrated air admittance valve in the discharge line, which helps to prevent siphoning back through the discharge. It also helps to prevent airlocks. There should also be a vented loop in the line, but this kind of optimizes the performance of that vented loop. And it just makes for easier operation, easier flushing, less clogs. So here's the premium panel that you get installed on your boat's wall or anywhere really that electrical wiring can run. And there is a before use button that fills the bowl. It's not silent like its name implies, but it's definitely quiet for the size of the macerator, considering all of that. And then you push the bowl has water in it. You push the after use button. First, it kind of squirts around the bowl to make sure it's cleaned everything off, which is already way more high tech than most public toilets. And then it empties the bowl, and then it flushes around again to make sure that the stuff in the bottom of the bowl is also cleared out. And you can program these premium panels to have a certain amount of water use. And so it doesn't have to do all of that if you are trying to conserve water. So, and a couple more cool features about this toilet. A, you could special order a bidet to go next to it. It matches. And B, all these toilets are made of porcelain, so that's nice. This toilet and the Nano are the only two toilets I've shown you that can do both a freshwater flush with a solenoid valve or a raw water flush that uses a water pump. And if you don't know, raw water means ocean water. And because it does have all these features, and plus just because of all of the materials that are used in constructing it, the price does come with it. It's $1,574. It's probably the most expensive toilet we sell. And now for number one, the Lavac. This is the Lavac, the unsung hero of fisheries supply plumbing. I think this is our number one toilet. And the reason for that is that it has a revolutionary pumping mechanism that simplifies everything. It reduces the number of moving parts and replacement parts you need. And people report that they work for, 10, 20 years. The thing that defines this toilet is a silicone seal on the inside of the lid. When you close the lid and you take the handle and you put it on the discharge pump, it creates an airtight seal in the bowl so that you can at once pump the waste in the bowl through the discharge, through the pump, up through the vented loop, and out through the through hole of the boat. You should always have a vented loop as the next point right after the through hole, any through hole. And at the same time, the negative pressure that it creates in the water intake hose from that seal will feed the water through the intake hose. Usually you need a water pump to do that, but this eliminates the need for a water pump entirely. And all you need is this big Henderson Mark V waste pump. And a Mark V pump is a standard that, regardless of brand, it can have the same gaskets, replacement gaskets, and some of the same replacement parts. It has the same hole spacing. So if you're ever in a place where you can't find a genuine Lavac or Henderson Mark V pump, and if they have a Whale Mark V pump, you can just replace the gaskets with the Whale gaskets. And also, the great thing about it is that it's a huge single diaphragm pump, and that is known to be the kind of pump that is the most resistant to clogs. People have said that they never have to deal with clogs like they've had to deal with on any of their other toilets. And that's because, when you have a few little diaphragms, like in a gray water pump or a freshwater pump, things can get caught in them because they're so tiny, but this is just coming through the middle, and that's the reason why. And it's also quite serviceable. If you ever do have a clog or any issues, you just take out this top cap, inspection cap type thing. The Lavatory toilet comes with fittings that go on top of a vented loop like this, and there are a couple different ones, and the different types of fittings that let air into the line, they also function to make it so that the pressure in the bowl will release at a certain speed, and that depending on which fitting you choose to put on there, it will determine how much water comes into the bowl of the toilet. This is basically like a bilge pump with a bowl. It's just so simple, and it can be remotely mounted, which is another plus, because if you have look at this base. This might just be the smallest base footprint, even smaller than the Jabsco or the RARITAN. And so you can mount it remotely. You can also have a bulkhead mount like this one, or you can have it where the handle has a different orientation and it's a through deck mount. If you want to have it coming up through the floor, and if you want to have it under, you can have the handle coming up through here like this. Since this is still a manual toilet, it doesn't cost quite as much as the electric toilets. It's about $650 to $750 depending on which configuration and details you get. But keep in mind that you are paying for this technology that does cut down on quite a bit of maintenance costs in the long run, and it's going to last a really long time.
How did you choose the order that you were going to show these toilets, 5 through 1?
Number 5 is like the one I'm less excited about, and number 1 is the one I'm more excited about, the most excited about. So this is a Lavatory, and it's my favorite potty at the party. So that's the end of the potty party. I hope you guys had as much fun as I did, and I hope it has helped you make some decisions if you were wondering what sort of toilet you wanted to get. Have a good week, and we're going to go back to the engine soon.
Maybe.